may sit. Before we begin, the meeting formally begins, we're going to start with prayers from the Reverend Prebendary Joseph Fernandez, who's the rector of St Mary's Church in Acton.
Let us pray. Loving God, we come before you with gratitude. We thank you for being a God of love who is with us now in this very room. You never leave us or forsake us. Your grace has brought us safe thus far, and your grace will lead us home. We thank you for making each of us in this room, every person we meet, every citizen of this borough, in your own image, with dignity and infinite worth. We thank you for the calling you have given every one of us to be good stewards of your creation and to love our neighbors as ourselves. We thank you tonight for these, your servants, all counselors, all staff. We give thanks for the way of service they have chosen to take on behalf of all of us here. We all come to this room tonight as complex human beings, carrying burdens, carrying joy and hope, trusting that you alone can hold us together in your love and peace. Help us, Lord, to trust you more than our fears and our wounds, and even our accomplishments. May we lean on your everlasting arms tonight. God, in your words, you make clear your expectation for those who sit in places of authority. And so we pray that you be glorified tonight through the decision of this council. We pray that they will have the eyes to see how our lives are all connected and how a common good is upheld when we listen and respond to those most vulnerable among us. We pray that your kingdom would come in healing as it is in heaven through your power, working in each of these your servants. May your truth be revealed. May your light shine brighter. May the voices of those most silenced be heard loud and clear. Defend their cause, O God, through this governing body tonight. We pray for wisdom. We pray for strength. We pray for courage to do what is right and good for all citizens. May we put the interests of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing our image in every person here. In the name of Jesus, who perfect love, sets us free from all our fears. Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend. So welcome members, officers, and to a number of people in the public gallery, and to everyone watching on YouTube tonight to this additional council meeting to discuss the local plan. So those who's watching online, I'm Councillor Tej Taylor, the Mayor of Ealing. Let me first of all thank Reverend Joseph Fernandez for providing the blessing tonight. St Mary's Church, if you don't know, hosted early this month a traditional Crowell sermon, which this year was given by Joseph in his first year as the new rector. And the church itself, for those who know Acton, is a major fulcrum in the heart of Acton that supports many community activities and also plays host to the Ealing Winter Night Shelter, which I visited on Sunday, 4th of February. Joseph, you're welcome to stay, of course, as long as you want to. So some housekeeping members. So to my right is not the Chief Executive. It's Peter George, who's our Strategic Director for Economy and Sustainability. Also absent is the Head of Democratic Legal Services. So to my left in her place is Justin Morley, who's the Head of Legal Services. To offering legal advice, and to Peter's right is Sam Bailey from Democratic Services. And I think also in attendance, we've got Jennifer Peters from Planning. There you go. And Steve Barton, I think members who know who he is as well. And things had gone slightly differently, I might not have been here either. Anyway, so that out the way, let's get on to the main proceedings. So tonight's meeting will be broadcast live and a recording retained on the council's YouTube site. Therefore, I presume everyone consents to this happening. And if you do not consent, you should leave the meeting now. I don't think there's any councillors joining us remotely, Sam. There is? Okay. And there are 8 or some councillors joining us remotely tonight via Zoom. Those members will not be counted as formally being in attendance at the meeting for the purposes of Section 85 of the Local Government Act 1972. However, their virtual attendance will be recorded in the minutes under item 1. The members in attendance virtually will be able to speak at the meeting, but won't be able to take part in any votes. So, on to item 1. We've got any apologies for absence and attendance, Mr. Bailey?
Yes, we've had apologies for absence from councillors Costigan, Cordier, Coley, Padda, Hashani, Anderson, Dinser, Young and Kumar.
Thank you. And
Chair,
on it-
if I may say, Councillor Stafford has sent his apologies too.
Councillor Crawford?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get in very big trouble if I don't give Councillor Kate Crawford's apologies for this evening, and so would you. Thank you.
Anybody else? No, cool. Yes,
That's apologies from councillor Coley.
yes, I think we got those. Yeah, we got those already. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bailey, are there any councillors present virtually?
Yes, councillor Kamaldit Sahota is present virtually.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 2, declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? So that's a no. All right, item 3, minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on 19th of December 2023. Do members, are the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on 19th of December agreed? Thank you. The meetings of the actual main meeting on that evening will be presented at the following council meeting in March. I'm following this even if you don't, councillor. Thank you very much. All right, on to mayor's announcements. So just a few things. Since Christmas, the last meeting for Christmas, I attended the annual New Year's Day parade in central London together with my consort and other mayors. Thank you those members who attended my New Year civic service at the Sri Jola Mundi in Greenford on 7th of January. Thank you those members who joined the annual Crail civic service at St Mary's Church in Acton on the 4th of February. Thank you to members who joined the Holocaust Memorial event on Friday, 26th of January here. Thanks to Councillors Galant Mahmood and Monica Hamidi, if she's here, who joined myself and the Mayor of London and Ealing's MPs at the Thai Pongal celebration at the Ealing Ammon Temple in West Ealing. This weekend, I'm attending the Ukrainian Catholic Church in London to commemorate the 2nd anniversary of the Russian invasion. And on Sunday, hopefully with past mayor, attending the Sri Guru Ravidas Temple in Southall for the 647th Prakash Parab or Sri Guru Ravidas Ji. See you there. Sad announcement to make is of former MP Harry Greenaway, who passed away aged 89 years. Harry, for those who don't know, was the MP for Ealing North from 1979 to 97, before he was succeeded by Steve Pan, I think is in the audience tonight. Details of Harry's funeral will be circulated in due course on behalf of his daughter. Thank you also to any past mayors that have covered any additional official mayoral invited events that I wasn't able to attend, and for the citizenship ceremonies. LGBT History Month is continuing at the moment, and I know West London Queer Project are hosting several events this month. I thank those members who gave generously after the last council meeting for the mayor's charities. Unfortunately, we cancelled the last fundraiser in January, but I think the office we're hoping to have one in Howellies in March, so we'll send some details out this week. And I'm afraid in terms of after meetings, sorry to let down some people, we have no samosas. We may have something, but not samosas. Everyone's against me now. So let's get that out the way. We're now on to the main business. So item number 5, which is petitions from members of the public. We have no petitions. Item 6, petitions from members of the council. We have no petitions from members of the council. We do have questions from members of the public. So Alex Rowley has given notice he wishes to ask a question of Councillor Costigan, Deputy Leading Cabinet Member for Climate Action. Although Councillor Costigan has given apologies for this meeting, therefore Councillor Mason will answer the question. So Alex, are you here? Do you want to come up here and ask a question?
Hello, can you hear me all? Yeah. So following the closure of Swinkham Avenue and before any changes to Elthorn Park Road are agreed, what is the council going to do and by when to measure and reduce the huge increase in speed and volume of traffic on Hazelmere Avenue that poses significant risk to many children's lives?
Yes, thank you very much, Alex, for your question. We've now had quite a number of questions in relation to active travel and of transport in the areas of Northfield and Hanwell Broadway. So I know that members of the council will be very familiar with the situation. As an administration, we are committed to addressing the climate emergency. The council plan sets out how we will improve active travel, widen access to EV charging, reduce congestion and reduce pollution. In this financial year alone, there has been around £3.4 million spent on active travel schemes across the borough, and particularly in Northolt and Southall, where we've been able to attract significant external funding. We're also committed to improving road safety in line with the Mayor of London's target of 0 deaths or serious injuries on London's road network by 2041. At the same time, we're also committed to listening to all of our communities and ensuring that they have a say in the development of road schemes or travel proposals. However, it is important that we are also honest with you about the challenges that we come up against in making improvements to roads that residents want to see. There are about 2,888 roads in Ealing, my officers tell me, totaling about 610 kilometres of carriageway and 1,190 kilometres of footways. It's a huge responsibility to improve and maintain all of those roads, and they fall on a team that currently is made up of no more than 8 people, with a budget that has fallen significantly since the COVID 2019 pandemic and before. And when we ended the trials of the low traffic neighbourhood, particularly LTN 21 in 2021, and we of course made others permanent, we made a commitment to residents that in future our travel schemes would be developed with them and not done to them. That work is complex and there are no easy fixes. Making the decision to begin the process of changes on any of those roads needs to be weighted against the other 2,887 roads in the borough. For instance, Hazelmere Avenue is located within a network of residential roads, and many of these roads also see huge volumes of through traffic, and particularly since Hounslow closed Swinkham Avenue as a consequence of the displaced traffic of LTN 21 onto a road that they controlled. If the team were to undertake any exploration of Hazelmere Avenue, a huge amount of data would of course firstly need to be collected to help us build a fuller picture of the traffic in the wider area. And before we collect that data, we'd need to inform residents of the reasons why the data is being collected. And crucially too, we'd only be able to make any changes to roads after undertaking traffic studies on other roads to check for any unintended consequences, and only after consultation with residents. All of that would cost money, potentially well into the millions, and we simply don't have that at the moment. We are bringing forward to Cabinet in April a transport strategy, which is going to outline not just how we intend on fulfilling that new improvement, the new approach to improving our roads, but also being informed by some early pilot work in 7 locations in the borough, including Elthorn Park Road and Leighton Road. And we are working on that transport strategy to make it clear how we prioritise road schemes in the future, so that our very limited resources can be focused on the areas most in need.
Thank you. Alex, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes. So I'm aware of the pilot for Elthorn Park Road. Regarding speed of traffic, Elthorn Park Road already have speed bumps and width restrictions, whereas we have neither of those, despite having hundreds of school children at risk daily speeding down our road. Regarding volume of traffic, we already know from the Home Zones pilot that the proposed changes to Elthorn Park and Leighton Road will at best only displace traffic onto neighbouring residential streets, including ours, which haven't even had a traffic count as yet. And that is clearly not a success and not good use of public funds that are clearly limited, as we've just heard. Yet, at the Elthorn Park Residents Association meeting in December, residents expressly said they want a solution for the whole area, not just their street. They don't want to displace traffic onto other residential streets. And actually they proposed ANPR residents only access. However, Councillor
Alex,
Costigan,
can I ask you to ask your question?
sorry, yeah, Councillor Costigan said that's off the table. My question is, why isn't ANPR on the table, given A, it has resident support, B, it would be the lowest cost, and C, it's proven to be more effective than all the measures included in the FUN programme?
Thank you very much, Alex, and and I appreciate that contribution. I think that's a great demonstration, actually, of where we went wrong on LCN 21 by taking a part of the borough that has a very complex road network and displacing traffic onto roads that, quite frankly, the London Borough of Ealing didn't control. And if I tell you the stories of when we took over as administration and the conversations that I had with Hounslow at the time to plead with them to not continue with the Swinkham Road closure, but of course to no avail. How we manage our roads, of course, has fundamental consequences onto other roads. What we're not in the business of doing anymore as an administration is dictating onto residents what we believe should be the case without having proper engagement and really understanding what the consequences are. Elthorn Park Avenue, Leighton Road is a pilot, and we're working with residents to try and understand what interventions that we can make that don't involve closing roads, or indeed, as ANPR would do, privatising a significant amount of Ealing for local residents as a consequence of others. And of course, all of the challenges that would be associated with the servicing of those roads from any number of others. I fear that we would return to a very, very uncomfortable conversation that the community has already rejected, not just in their responses to consultations, but also at the ballot box for a conversation about a return to LTN 21. It's no longer feasible. So what the administration are now trying to do, just as we did at Deans and Montague, where there has been a very successful set of modal filters, is to work with residents to try and find the solutions that are reasonable, that are cost effective, and that don't cause significantly huge consequences for other part of the road network. We'd love to work with Fielding Primary School to secure school streets that are now incredibly popular right across the borough, where we've been able to make school streets schemes permanent in so many locations on our destination towards that 50 target that we've set ourselves by the end of the term. And we'd really love to work with residents, with parents, with teachers, and of course the governors to make that a reality.
Thank you, Councillor Mason, and thank you, Alex, for your question. Right, item 8, questions from members of the council. Pleased to hear there are none. So we're going to go on to item 9. And so Councillor Manro is going to move the Ealing local plan and all 1,000 pages of it and the draft CIO charging schedule. And in agreement, I think I've given you plus the 2 opposition leads 5 minutes each on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to start with a huge thank you to all the officers who've been working tirelessly. I think during COVID and before COVID, it's been many years since they've been working on this plan, and we're finally up at the Reg 19 stage. And of course, a thank you to all the thousands of residents who have engaged with us on the plan, helping us to shape it around their asks and aspirations for the future of the borough. This is what the local plan is all about. our aspirations for the future about building a better borough for the next generation of Ealing residents. I've been around long enough not to just remember the last local plan in 2013, but the plan before that in 2003 with Dick Johns. And while some may call me biased, this is the best of the three. Our vision for growth across all 7 towns, ensuring that genuinely affordable homes and good, well-paid jobs that we're looking to provide for our residents are available in every corner of the borough. We have such a unique offer in Ealing, and the new local plan will allow us to truly take advantage of our unrivaled connectivity with 5 Elizabeth Line stations, HS2, and the A40, our industrial estates, with Park Royal and Southall, and our green and open spaces. And they're set to be enhanced with our proposals for a regional park. With this, we know that our vision for Ealing, being a destination borough, can become a reality, where current and future Ealing residents can further their careers, raise their families, and start new businesses. Now, while I'm sure that everyone in the room tonight has not followed my example of going through that in detail, but that is what makes up the Reg 19 local plan. But the benefit of those who didn't go through it, let me quickly run through the ways that our local plan will deliver on our residents' needs. First of all, we've increased the ask for affordable housing up to 40% for large developments as we continue to face up against a Tory-made housing crisis and deliver genuinely affordable homes for our residents. We're taxing developers through the Community Infrastructure Levy, helping to deliver essential infrastructure like schools, GP surgeries, and community centres that our residents rely on. We made it crystal clear to developers where it is and isn't appropriate for tall buildings, ensuring that new developments fit in with existing neighbourhoods. We're bolstering our climate policies to help us fight the climate crisis with more tree planting and rewilding to improve carbon capture, and further promoting active travel, encouraging our residents to tackle climate change and live healthier lives. We focused on regenerating our town centres, high streets, and shopping parades, developing our plans for 20-minute neighbourhoods so our residents can live in a walkable and accessible neighbourhoods. Our new affordable workspace policy will help to ensure that both new and existing businesses can have space to carry on their business. The local plan isn't one-dimensional document. It's about buildings and roads. It's also about what spaces do our residents need, where in the borough we put them, and what residents and businesses and communities that make up our borough use them for. Mr. Mayor, I've never been more optimistic about the future of our borough, and I know that all the hard work that has gone into this local plan will pay off as we look to build a better future for the people that call our borough their home. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. You didn't need the 5 minutes at all. Came under 4 minutes. Right, Councillor Mason, you're next.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I formally second the motion and reserve my right to speak later in the debate.
Okay. Councillor Ball next. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, I stand before you to call for the rejection of the local plan. This plan, while improved from the Regulation 18 version, still fails to adequately address the needs and concerns of our residents. First and foremost, the proposed development fails on affordable housing provision, especially in central Ealing, which is the most unaffordable part of our borough in absolute terms and the second relative to incomes. In a time where housing affordability is a pressing issue for many families in our community, it is imperative that any development plan prioritises the creation of affordable homes. Without this, we risk further exacerbating the already dire situation of housing insecurity and homelessness. We should be pushing for at least 50% genuinely affordable housing in individual commercial schemes, rather than settling for 40% affordable, of which 30% is intermediate, meaning only 20% is the most genuinely affordable tenure. As developers negotiate down from our local plan proposals, the achieved affordable percentage under this plan will be even worse. Additionally, while the worst excesses of the Regulation 18 plan in terms of removing greenbelt and metropolitan open land protection from our open spaces have been withdrawn, the proposed development plan still fails to adequately consider the preservation of green spaces and the protection of our local environment. As one example, the proposal to remove MOL protection from the former clubhouse and car park at Berkeley Sports Ground risks that site being developed in isolation, with the rest of the site still land banked for decades to come, rather than a scheme coming forward with enabling development there to allow the rest of the site to be reopened to Ealing residents for sporting use. The development plan must prioritise sustainability and green initiatives to mitigate the environmental impact of urban expansion. Moving southwest, we welcome the Imperial College land being incorporated into the Warren Farm site allocation, but can continue to demand clarity that the whole of the current Warren Farm will be preserved as a local nature reserve, and reject the preference tentatively expressed in the document for new buildings to cluster around the existing hard standing. Moreover, the proposed plan lacks meaningful community engagement and consultation. Before us tonight, we have an ungainly 516 pages of the plan itself, together with already 693 pages of supporting documents, despite the fact that some key supporting documents like the Atlas of Change have not yet been published. This total of 1,209 pages is over double the length of the London plan. And they contain just as much impenetrable waffle and jargon and repetition as the Reg 18 documents did. There have been a large number of public responses, but the bulk of them, understandably, centred on a small range of issues, rather than making detailed points across the totality of the plan. The voices of our residents must be heard and valued in the decision-making process. The NPPF says that local plans should be succinct and that they should be prepared through effective engagement. Without genuine participation from the community on an accessible and easily comprehensible document, the legitimacy of the development plan is called into question and its implementation risks alienating those it purports to serve. In conclusion, Mr. Mayor, I urge fellow councillors to reject the proposed local plan. Let us instead work together to craft a plan that prioritises genuinely affordable housing, invests in our infrastructure, preserves our environment, and genuinely engages our community in the decision-making process. Only then can we ensure a prosperous and sustainable future for all residents of our borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Next up, Councillor Gallant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, reading this iteration of the local plan, obviously it was welcome that it changed the original proposals to designate Greenbelt and MOL, which we as Conservatives had pushed for. It focuses quite rightly on housing and employment, and that is welcome. But I feel it could also focus much more on commercial life, nighttime culture, nighttime economy, and culture and heritage as well, which is barely mentioned in the plan. It is obviously also welcome that it focuses on the outer towns as well, Southall, Greenford, Northolt in particular, and that is welcome. And we agree that Ealing must be considered as a totality. Now, I agree with Councillor Ball. The plan is hugely long, and many residents have told me that it's almost impenetrable. It's thick with jargon and thick with waffle, and it actually doesn't include, and we haven't seen, the Atlas for Change and the interactive policies map as well, which would perhaps give it better clarity. And that's a council that prides itself on accessibility and transparency, and I don't think the local plan is transparent. We're concerned about the tall building designation. 22 stories encourages developers to think tall in the centre of Ealing. Mr. Mayor, there's a new planning code. It's called TBC. Now, if it applied to a loft conversion, that would be fine, but it applies to a regional park, a huge area, and it applies to what I will call a vanity project, and that is the proposed Lido, the outdoor swimming pool. And both those projects are uncertain, and they could have great effect on the actual deliverability of this plan. Town forums, probably you wouldn't think of it normally in that, but you know, this council wants to create another tier of government, town forums, and they've said nothing about what it's going to look like, who's going to be in charge of it, who's going to chair it, and what its budget's going to be. And I feel these town forums could quite easily affect the local plan, the deliverability of the local plan in the 7 towns. So we don't think this plan is deliverable, and we will not be supporting it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Mason's now going to take up his right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Forgive my surprise that neither the opposition parties are supporting what has been a document that has been worked on by our officers over a considerable period of time, which of course, as I'm sure both parties are aware, although they of course probably wouldn't want to communicate that to the public, showing off their populist credentials, as I'm sure they will, has to be a legally tight document, right? It sets out a vision for the borough, but it also, very importantly, has to tell developers what they can and they can't do. Now, that requires, unfortunately, a level of precise language that means it has to run to a few pages. And unlike the London plan, this document has to set out not just some policies, but it also has to set the future of some very specific places. And that's exactly what it does. Now, we are unfortunately living through a housing crisis engineered, one might say deliberately, by the Truss government and Kwasi Kwarteng, who spiked interest rates, which have caused the development sector to collapse, and many of our housing schemes that were brought forward by private developers heading to into the dustbin, basically. Now, in that context, delivering 35% affordable homes in the London Borough of Ealing was difficult, and we weren't able to achieve it before the last few years. The latest figures show that we're probably at about 39%, and we think that we can get to 40%, but our aspiration, of course, continues to be 50%. That is our target. And this plan, if it has anything at its heart, is the idea of delivering genuinely affordable homes and decent living incomes. On the Metropolitan Open Land and the Green Belt, we are being sensible. And quite frankly, Councillor Ball, if you want to say that a car park is a green open space that contains butterflies, flora and fauna, why can you park your car there? That seems to be the key thing. And of course, the green land that we have at Warren Farm will continue to be preserved, as it will be at Barclays. But where we've got toilet blocks and tarmac and bits of land that fundamentally are not serving their purpose as green belt, then we actually need to do something about it. Because, Councillor Ball, you cannot, on the one hand, bemoan a plan that says that we're not delivering affordable housing, but then also on the other say that we shouldn't build. It is a traditional NIMBY tactic of the Liberal Democrats and of the Tories, who keep on promising planning reform to get Britain building again, but always revert back to the Shire Tories, like perhaps Councillor Stafford, who's not here, maybe knocking on the doors of Shire Tories to encourage them to vote for him, who unfortunately will always hold our country back, from building the genuinely affordable homes that we know that we need to do something about the thousands of people on our housing waiting lists. This administration is absolutely clear. We're not just building homes. We're not just building roads. We're building identity and pride and purpose in each and every one of our 7 towns. Our future cannot be as a dormitory suburb that sends rich people from flats bought in the sky on expensive bits of infrastructure into central London, where they earn sky-high incomes at the expense of residents living in this borough who have to catch the 607 or the SL8, whatever you wish to call it, to go and clean those office buildings. Our future is in a fairer, more distributed, wealthier set of towns and communities where everybody has the opportunity, from Southall to Acton, to Greenford, to Ealing, to Hanwell, to Perivale, and to Northolt. We have pride of place in every one of our communities, and that's exactly what this plan is seeking to do. So I commend it to council. After so many years of trying to get to this position, we're finally here, and I commend the work of officers, of the team. Let's get this over the line.
Thank you. It's the first one over time. All right. Councillor Mohammed is up next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we all know the housing market in London is broken. The reality is that too many people in Southall and across the borough are struggling to afford their rent. The Tory government has been very happy to let the house prices and private renters spiral out of control, whilst keeping the housing benefit frozen. They failed to meet any of their home building targets and the level of homelessness continued to rise. Last year, 4,360 families approached us for support because they were either homeless or about to be made homeless. I believe that everyone deserves a generally affordable and safe home. This is why our local plan fills me with hope for future. We are ambitious for our residents and will work hard as we can to ensure no more people have to live without roof over their head. It's yet more proof that only Labour can deliver more generally affordable housing for all our residents. But to really tackle the housing crisis, we really need to create good jobs and encourage good businesses to move to the borough. This echoes Councillor Mason, what he said earlier. As a councillor for Southall Broadway, I am proud that our local plan aims to build on Southall's incredible industrial industry, improving the variety of workspaces in the town to grow one of our most important business communities. Mr. Mayor, ambition for Ealing doesn't stop there. We are more connected to the rest of our city than ever, but Ealing is so much more than a string of Elizabeth Line stations and towns across the A40. We have so much to offer the world, and I'm proud that our local plan reflects this. We want residents to thrive in the communities full of pride and identity, and our local plan sets out exactly how we can achieve this. We want to reset the role that Ealing plays in the United Kingdom. Our local plan will use the strategic importance that we have as a borough to create inclusive opportunities for residents across our 7 towns. Mr. Mayor, the context is stark. We face many challenges, and while there is not yet a Labour government, I worry things get worse. But I'm so proud to be part of Ealing Labour and a council that works to make a different life better for all residents across 7 towns every day. I'm excited and hopeful about the future this local plan will bring to Ealing, and I'm proud to support it tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Next up is councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to support the new local plan. Based on thousands of conversations with residents, the plan is the blueprint that will shape the long-term growth of our borough. I believe that it fully encapsulates the aspirations and needs of our residents and communities that make up Ealing's 7 towns, and it addresses vital aspects such as housing, transport, infrastructure, and environmental sustainability. Colleagues speaking tonight have and will focus on a number of key issues highlighted in the plan, and I want to welcome in particular the move that will require 40% of new developments and even 50% of new developments to deliver genuinely affordable homes, up from 35% at the moment. That means a stable future for more of our residents. As a member of the planning committee, I have too often seen developers trying to skirt around the current requirements. The new local plan will reinforce our ability to provide genuinely affordable homes. The need for this becomes more evident day by day as we continue to suffer the impacts of the failed policies of the past 14 years of Tory misrule. Nowhere did we see this more than the economically illiterate Truss Kwarteng budget, which has brought the UK economy to its knees. When we have a Labour government, hopefully this year, we will boost house building and deliver on an ambitious pledge to build 1.5 million homes within 5 years. 1.5 million more homes that give people a secure future, free from the fear of eviction and rogue landlords. The opportunities that the community infrastructure levy will bring are huge and will have tangible benefits across the borough and of course for Hanwell and West Ealing. Whilst we need developers to help regenerate and modernise all of our towns, they need to pay their way. And it is clear to Ealing residents that many of them need to seriously up their game. I will make special mention of the John Lewis Partnership. Their current application to redevelop the Waitrose site in my ward suggests that for some, there is still a long way to get with the programme. The local plan is more than merely a building and development framework. It is an ambitious plan that includes very real attempts to tackle the climate emergency and support meaningful and sustainable employment opportunities in the borough. The plan is a testament to our commitment to community engagement and participation, thousands of Ealing residents got involved. The scale and quality of the consultation must be applauded, and it is clear evidence of the value we place on the views of all our residents, businesses and stakeholders. I am proud to support this plan for the future of Ealing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. I think I'm looking forward to this next speaker. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to show my support for the local plan tonight. It has been great to be the right of the forefront of the work on the local plan, having the opportunity to chair the local development committee advisory group over the last year. And I must thanks for all the members, officers, residents who have been involved in the our committee over the last few years. There has been nearly unprecedented level of engagement on our local plan with over 13,000 representation, Mr. Mayor, 13,000 representation, more than 6,000 residents consulted by Reg 18 consultation. It is so great to see so many residents. They are passionate as we are about making our borough a better place to live. Mr. Mayor, the residents are the greatest resource that we have. They live in the homes we build, work the job we create, and make up the communities we serve. They know better than anyone what they need. And that's exactly we needed to make this plan truly serve them. I am so glad to see this new version of the local plan has increased the level of the affordable housing up to 40%, Mr. Mayor, 40% affordable housing share. It is great to see Ealing shows exactly the kind of ambition the councils needs to be showing in the face of this housing crisis. But it is also great to see our vision of employment growth become ever clearer. I know that there's so much that my town, Perryville, has to offer. And our goal of delivering growth for all 7 towns mean the rest of the borough and rest of the London will get experience it alongside me. Mr. Mayor, I am so excited to see how this local plan will work our borough towards better. And I am so proud to support this local plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mahmood. All right, next up is Councillor Zizimos.
The Liberal Democrats called for a local plan years ago. It has been a long time coming. We have waited patiently for its appearance. And we finally arrived, only to initially upset local residents with its insistence that MOL said it should be removed from green spaces across the borough. Everywhere from Grove Park to Hanger Hill Park, and even a piece of land that has clung on for hundreds of years, where the Hanger Hill ward gets its Anglo-Saxon name, Hanger, meaning wooded. It was only a paper exercise, not to be feared, we were told. I feared it, and thousands of residents feared it. The council has relented and removed it from the Regs 19 for the most part. The whole exercise did not need to happen. The angst it caused did not need to happen. It's also disappointing to note that had a local plan been in place years earlier, as it should have been, some projects like Fry's Park may not have been so densely packed with flats. We have tried to listen to residents and help them to understand the complex local plan before us. We try to get them to respond in a meaningful way, and they have, which is good to see. Giving a decisive height limit for buildings across the borough would have been very welcome by those many residents, but this local plan before us does not give us this. Finally, although encompassing the land from Imperial College in the borders of Warren Farm, the council did not make the bold step of designating the specific area. To date, over 25,000 people have signed a petition to save it, which is full of nature as its best, already rewilded as a nature reserve, full stop. In this local plan, there's still a push for sports facilities. Where is the bold step in the local plan to save Warren Farm in its entirety? So much more could have been done with this local plan. I would not be supporting this plan.
Thank you, councillor. Next up is councillor Baines in the far corner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And may I join colleagues in thanking the hard work of council officers who have been essential in putting together our local plan. I'm pleased to support this motion, which will have an incredible impact on generations to come. Mr. Mayor, it sometimes feels like the Conservative government has given up on climate. Deregulation has turned our rivers into dumps for raw sewage. The climate crisis, like many other issues, is yet another victim of the Tories party's culture war. And our Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has been accused of simply uninterested in climate change by members of his own party. But in Ealing, Councillor Ball, we are committed to tackling the climate crisis and protecting the environment. Unlike Rishi Sunak, we care about our ambition to become carbon neutral by 2030. I am proud that our local plan will help ensure greener, healthier, and safer neighbourhoods. Our local plan sets out how we will maintain, enhance, and expand our green infrastructure. It supports tree planting and rewilding and promote greater biodiversity. It promotes community food growing, protecting allotments, and leading food partnerships. It will support the delivery of net zero carbon buildings across the borough. It encourages more 20-minute neighbourhoods, encouraging people across the borough to use active travel methods and live healthier lives. I am pleased that our new local plan sets our plans to realise our historic ambition to create a new regional park in Ealing. This park could be transformative for Ealing. I am proud to be part of a Labour Council that will always be bold in our ambition to make Ealing an even better place to live and work. Despite pressures on our council budgets, we will always be driven by our core priorities. We will always work hard to tackle the climate crisis, creating good jobs and fighting inequality. This is what drives our local plan and what propels us forward as a council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Next up is councillor Newsted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to our officers, of course. I feel really terribly sad that the opposition found the document too long a read and too complex. So what I really want to say is that Ealing is not one place. We are 7 towns, each buzzing with hope and energy and drive and purpose. But our 7 towns are not equal in income, in health, or in opportunity. But they are equal in our ambitions for them and in their potential. The local plan is rooted in the distinct identity of our 7 towns, and I'm proud that we've been working together to deliver a plan that will shape and grow our communities for the better. Here in Ealing Labour, we believe that power and decision-making should be made by local people. Decisions not just about the buildings that are built, but about the communities we support and how we create a shared vision for the future. And that's why it's essential that we listen hard to what our residents want for Ealing. And as Councillor Mahmood noted, this is one of the largest consultations we've ever conducted. Engaging with the thriving, diverse communities that make up our borough is key to understanding that we can deliver new investment and growth underpinned by what our residents want and need. Investment in a new world-class leisure centre, investment in our voluntary sector and our community groups, investment in a new regional park. And thank you so much for the reminder, Councillor Gallant, because in May we'll be holding Your Voice, Your Town events in each of our 7 towns. And not only will these events enable us to continue our work on improving existing social infrastructure, but along with the local plan, will help us work towards our ambition of supporting communities that have strong civic pride and a say in what they want for their local area. This plan is about investing in what matters to our communities and building a future together, despite an economy trashed by the Tories, despite a government grotesquely underinvesting in social services, despite a government deliberately leaving behind the most vulnerable. Our local plan is about a fair vision for economic and social growth where the residents of all our 7 towns will benefit, not just those few at the top. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next up is Councillor Conti. Are you going to impersonate Councillor Young?
No, I wasn't
No,
planning
sorry.
to, no. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My impressions are really bad, so I'm definitely not going to do that. One of the biggest concerns with the Regulation 18 proposals was about the removal of metropolitan open land status on a number of areas of the borough. So it's really welcome that that has been reversed and that's not going to happen. In particular, I know a lot of Hanger Hill residents were concerned about MOL status being removed from Hanger Hill Park, Foxwood, Hangerwood and Berkeley Sports Ground. It's also welcome that in Chapter 5, the Council will be adding the G4 policy to consider the impact of any proposed developments upon visual openness of green space. I think what matters, what material difference this is going to make. It was only just over a year ago when the Planning Committee voted to approve development on Twyford Abbey, which is a metropolitan open land site with the removal of over 100 mature trees. So, I know Councillor Baines, you were talking about the council wanting and the Labour Party wanting to protect our green space and our environment. It was us who was opposing. It was us who were opposing building on the last green space in West Twyford and the removal of all of those trees. So there's a lot of talk about wanting to protect green space, but actually what material difference and hopefully what material difference that this policy change in the local plan will actually deliver. I'm pleased to see that for Berkeley Sports Grounds, that the proposed development site, that the wording has been added, that the development will be focused around existing previously developed site, and that will limit hopefully any development on the green space. When it comes to tall buildings, as Councillor Gallant mentioned, we are concerned about for Central Ealing that anything under 22-storey will not be considered a tall building. I think that is a concern with the increasing height around Central Ealing. The plan also talks about designing safe and secure urban environments. I think this is really important. I know on a recent site visit for our scrutiny panel 2, we went to Southall Gasworks, and the developer talked about the issues with crime and antisocial behaviour in the new development. So much so that there's been fires in bin stores and they've had to employ private security. And just last week, I was speaking to Make It Ealing, who were talking about one of the biggest risks to business in Ealing is crime. And so anything that we can do to try and improve that urban environment to reduce crime, both in for housing and also for businesses locally, will continue to make Ealing both an attractive place to live and somewhere that people want to come to set up business and to shop, etc. So though there are positive steps in the right direction with this plan, there are still a number of concerns that we've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, I've got Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Listening to the contributions from members earlier, it's kind of interesting to hear about how they thought there should be more consultation. Well, there were 48 consultation events, whether you were online, whether you were in person, whether you were in a school, a high street, a station, a workshop, even led by a councillor in an allotment. So 48 consultation events. Thousands of contributions by individuals and responses. And let's not forget that this isn't the only part of the contribution towards this development of the plan. Shaping Ealing consultation predated this and again had thousands of contributions. So that as a whole is a significant engagement. And I need to like to say thank you to the officers for all the efforts they put into doing those masses of different engagements and often targeting areas of the borough that have very few and very low levels of engagement traditionally. So I think that going out and reaching out to those different parts of the borough is to be commended and recognised. So part of this process of doing the local plan got me to reflect on my role as a councillor. Some people say, well, you're a community leader. That's right. But we also have a role to inform, educate, and sometimes challenge. Sometimes challenge our own residents to reflect upon what they see and what they understand, or maybe even misunderstand. And some of the things about come through this development have been misunderstood. It was a consultation. It was fundamentally a consultation. So we shouldn't be surprised when the final document is changed. I recognise that that's been acknowledged with the use of green belt and metropolitan open land. I was a member of the committee, the Local Planning Advisory Development Committee, where officers were at pains to stress the level of protection is comparable between green belt and metropolitan open land, and it's very specific criteria about how that can be defined, but the planning protection is comparable. At pains. I even went on the website and said, can I get some advice about this? And there's a very handy summary in Landmark Chambers, a chambers of law that has 100 barristers specialising in planning who confirmed what the officers were saying. Should I be surprised? But I think councillors, when they go out to advise and inform their residents, you need to challenge some misconceptions. Our move towards 20-minute neighbourhoods, often seen as curtailing movement, curtailing choice. Challenge that misconception. It's about making sure we can support our high streets, support our local towns, support our neighbourhoods. And this is part of the work we're doing. It's not the end of the work we're doing in that, but we need to challenge those mischaracterizations and misunderstandings and misconceptions. That's part of our role and our responsibility. It's great to see that we've actually formalized our climate change responsibilities and our drive towards low carbon, better efficient use of energy. Operational energy has got its own policy statement. Embodied carbon, whole life cycle approach to building and construction is all there. There is also offsetting. So if you don't meet those standards, you can offset. But that's not there as a casual thing you can just buy your way out of. It will be an expensive means to make sure if you're not meeting our carbon targets, it won't be a casual thing you can do. So developers need to be aware that we've got high standards and we're building for the future. We're building to make sure it's sustainable and we're building to make sure that we're supporting our environment. So I recommend supporting the local plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rice, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, during lockdown, I read the autobiography of a musician, and he described how he went to a nightclub called Bogarts with George Michael and a number of other up-and-coming stars in the early 1980s. Bogarts was in South Harrow. Immediately, I was so impressed that the likes of George Michael went nightclubbing so close to my ward, and by looking the place up, I found out that young people from Northolt Mandeville went to Bogarts all the time. I asked a friend if he remembered the place, and he did. It had the same owners as the Plough in Northolt Mandeville. We discussed the Starlight across the road from my flat and how David Bowie played there. My friend impressed me further with stories of Mott the Hoople at the Old Field Tavern and how the Rolling Stones played the Granada in Greenford Broadway. There were so many other incredible venues across Greenford, Northolt and Southall too, for ska, reggae and more. Sadly, I'm only 50, so it does feel like I've missed out on it all. But one-off events such as the festivals in Walpole Park and the Hanwell Hootie are a joy. But what would it take to bring us back to that rich history of centres of creativity, musical culture in the borough of Ealing? And I get that second chance. Venues do not thrive in isolation. We can be proud in Ealing of the work of our High Streets Task Force to strengthen our retail and hospitality sectors to ensure that footfall comes to our 7 towns. Pitzhanger Lane is, of course, our proudest example, with thanks to Councillor John Larkin for that. The local plan before us emphasises over and over our commitment to culture to provide economic growth and bring communities together. Our bid to become the Borough of Culture underlines that by celebrating existing local culture. For example, to quote the local plan, Greenford Broadway already provides local retail and services. However, a more diversified mix of retail, along with enhanced community, culture and leisure uses, would help to enhance the town centre as the primary hub of Greenford. This would strengthen the town centre's identity while providing new employment opportunities. Identity matters, and this is nothing new. The Greater London Assembly has been advising on creating a sense of place for years, and the Arts Council warns of how fundamental civic pride is to it all, and how civic pride is dented when town centres go into decline. The advice is to look towards a multifunctional high street which prevents a spiral of pride reducing decline.
The post-pandemic high street is envisioned as a multifunctional hub, just as our High Streets Task Force is striving to achieve. Mr. Mayor, perhaps with Ealing Labour's local plan, it is not too late for me to get to those gigs after all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Now to give us a Tropicana feel, Councillor Brett.
Not sure what that's supposed to mean. I mean, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I start, I'm just kind of astonished by some of the comments from the opposition in regards to engagement. Like as many of my colleagues have said tonight, it's been the largest engagement we've ever done with a massive response. So I can only think that you've been asleep for the last 2 years. Anyway, I'll carry on. We know that low pay is a major issue for many of people that live in our borough. The detrimental effect that this has on people's mental health, living conditions and ability to afford the basics is well documented. The local plan sits right at the heart of tackling this problem. Alongside ensuring we build enough genuinely affordable homes and effectively tackle the climate crisis, we need to ensure that our residents have access to good, well-paid jobs on their doorstep. We want to encourage businesses to invest in our borough, whether they're already here or looking for somewhere new to establish themselves. We want to do everything to ensure that they bring decent, well-paid jobs to the borough for our residents. That is why it is so important that this plan protects the valuable employment spaces that we have in the borough and ensuring that each of our 7 towns has the new spaces for businesses to thrive. We're also making sure that this isn't just for big businesses that benefit. We've outlined our affordable workspace policy, and it will be giving smaller businesses that make up our thriving community more opportunity to grow. We have a great legacy to build on in Ealing. We're the home of British cinema. We have one of the largest industrial estates in Europe on our doorstep. We have arguably some of the best transport links in London. There is opportunity for everybody in Ealing. And this new local plan is about ensuring that our residents can benefit from the positive effects of growth within the borough. So I am proud of this local plan and I'm happy to support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Next up, Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The context of this topic is that for 5 or more years, people feel the council has not been listening to them on planning matters. Residents feel that many huge tower blocks have been put up next to them or near them without the infrastructure that is really needed, the health services, the education, etc. And they feel that this document does not provide enough on that grounds as well. The share of truly affordable housing that Councillor Ball referred to is much lower than many expect of this council. We should be aiming higher than the targets that are defined in this document. The Liberal Democrats over 3 years ago called for a review of this, and we should be where we are now a year or 2 earlier. It's a shame it took this long to happen. We've worked with many residents groups up and down the borough, east and west, to make sure they can give their views. And it's great that so many people gave their views, but the legalistic language in some of the documentation is not what the guidance should be about. And even today, someone referred to the documentation as gobbledygook. So I think we need to think again when we do large consultations of this nature to be as plain speaking as we can. Some of the feedback that I have about the actual documentation is that there are some positive areas, and I think Councillor Manro started off with one that I would agree with him on about the need for job creation and how it will help on that particular front, especially with the high streets, which continue to fail in many of those town centres that people refer to. There is a building height limit element which has been added, which will partially limit some of the issues, the negative issues in some areas, but developers will still appear to be given too much power. We really need to have a higher, truly affordable target. As Councillor Ball said, let's aim high. The U-turn in MOLs is welcomed, but why plan these changes for Greenbelt and MOL when they're clearly going to be so bad and so unwanted? On Warren Farm, which has been referred to once or twice earlier today, and its wildlife, this wildlife is not guaranteed, despite I think what Councillor Mason may have indicated or hinted at, but over 26,000 signatories have signed the petition, and they deserve to know now, not in a few weeks when Cabinet comes or even later. Even after all that time, there is many supporting documentation that is not available, including more details about the energy offsetting and the carbon offsetting. We need to ensure that developers build buildings that are truly energy efficient and will last. On this, it appears we will have to wait even longer to discover this. And that was what I was told when I asked about this 2 or 3 years ago. So on Greenbelt and MOLs, we can celebrate that there's a victory that Liberal Democrats and residents and the campaigners have had on this, because clearly the council has finally started to listen on this area. But for some of the reasons I've given earlier and some of them that other councillors have made, the Liberal Democrats will be voting against this Labour motion.
Thank you, councillor. Next up, we've got councillor Blacker.
Thank you, Mayor. The built environment shapes us. It tells us how to move about the borough. It tells us what kind of places we live in. It tells us where we can work, where we can rest, where we can play. The built environment shapes our physical and our mental health, and the local plan sets the rules for development in our borough. The built environment shapes us, and tonight we shape it back. It's no surprise that when we talk in Ealing about the wider determinants of health, we talk about the building blocks. Housing, employment, education, green space, all of them will be shaped by the plan we adopt tonight. Now, planning was one of the very first committees I joined back in 2014. I remember Steve handing us a huge stack of local plan documents that sat unread on my dining table. I apologise. And now many of the decisions we make here make a huge difference to people's lives, sometimes in a small way, sometimes in a big way, sometimes in a visible way, sometimes conscious only to those who they affect. But planning is different. You see the results of those decisions every day when we walk around the borough. It's why planning decisions, because you can see them, are so often so vocally contested. It's why it's been so important to us that we have consulted widely and openly on this new iteration of the local plan. So often when development comes forward or potential development comes forward, we are asked to consider the strain that new homes will put on local services. So this new local plan isn't just about indicating what form of development would be acceptable where, it's about so much more. It's supported by an infrastructure delivery plan that tells us what Ealing needs, what investment in primary care, in hospitals and health, education, transport, and so much more. And most importantly, it doesn't just list them. It sets out with the new SIL schedule a way for us to make developers pay for it. And even more than that, even better, a slice of those levy collections will be funneled directly into the hands of our residents through town forums, empowering communities to invest in their own priorities. In essence, this local plan transcends brick and mortar. It transcends tall buildings. It transcends parks. It's about cultivating robust, resilient communities where the health and well-being of our residents take centre stage. Through strategic utilisation of the tools available to us through this process, not only can we ensure Ealing isn't just that dormitory town in the Elizabeth line, but a place, in all senses of the word, a place that promotes healthy lives, and I'm proud to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Next up is councillor Cam Nagwell. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, as we unveil Ealing's local plan, we are shaping and laying the groundwork for a brighter future, especially for our young people, the very cornerstone of tomorrow's Ealing. This plan isn't just about addressing the challenges of today. It's about securing a prosperous and sustainable tomorrow for generations to come. At its core, our local plan is a commitment to our young people by prioritising initiatives that tackle the climate crisis, create good jobs, and fight inequality. We're paving the way for a future where our young people can thrive. By focusing on regenerating our town centres, we are not only revitalising our communities, but also creating vibrant spaces where everyone, including our young people, can learn, work, and play. We're making sure that every town in Ealing benefits from new investment and opportunities. But it's not just about putting up buildings, it's about creating communities where people feel like they belong and they take pride in their surroundings. By encouraging active travel and investing in infrastructure, we're setting the stage for a greener future. Crucially, our local plan places a strong emphasis on affordable housing and job creation, two pillars essential for the prosperity of our youth. By increasing the requirement for affordable housing to 40% and protecting existing employment spaces, we are providing young people with the foundation they need to build their futures right here in Ealing. We are creating pathways to success, ensuring that no young person is left behind. The local plan stands as a tribute to the strength of community involvement. With over 13,000 voices heard from our residents, this consultation marks one of Ealing's most inclusive endeavours to date. By including young people in the decision-making process, we're giving them the power to shape a better future for their communities. So let's embrace this opportunity and commit to building a future where every young person in Ealing can fulfil their potential. Our local plan is more than just planning guidance. It's a promise to invest in our youth, to build stronger communities, and to create a brighter future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next one, I've got Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased to be joining this debate and this important council meeting for a plan that has been long awaited. It's a vital piece of work that will help shape the borough for the future. It's rooted in Ealing Labour's key manifesto priorities, tackling climate crisis, creating good jobs and fighting inequality. Across the country, other local authorities have slowed down, paused, or in some cases even abandoned some of their plans to publish local plans. Here in Ealing, I'm delighted that the plan to shape and grow the borough over the next decade and beyond is moving forward and getting ever closer to completion. I'd particularly like to thank the council officers who've been making this happen and their work and dedication. This is why I'm quite surprised about the opposition, who apparently have been calling it for years, we've heard tonight, calling for this for years to come forward, and yet now want to reject it. Years worth of work that's been going on and moving forward to make sure that this happens. The local plan's based on widespread consultation. Councillor Driscoll outlined the various events that took place. We've heard over 6,000 residents made over 13,000 representations of the draft local plan at the Reg 18 stage. This is one of the largest consultation responses that the council has ever had. So opposition parties' ideas that either there hasn't been enough consultation or there needs to be more consultation simply aren't true. The plan's more than a basic shaping and building of infrastructure across the borough. It's about shaping our communities right across the borough and encompassing all 7 of our towns. It's about ensuring fairness, that no town or area gets ignored or left behind, and that new investment is equally attracted right across the borough and put in where residents want it and need it. This in turn will help to create and shape the character and identities of these communities in the next decade and beyond. To help do this, the local plan outlines a key change of introducing the community infrastructure levy, a tax on developers perhaps, or a contribution that will make funding for key infrastructure in all our communities right across the borough from both big and small developments. Town forums will play an important role in this. Councillor Gallant highlighted these and I was pleased that he's paying attention to them. You know, the new community infrastructure levy or CIL payments will be sliced and handed directly to these town forums, giving local people the opportunity to have their say on local projects and make sure that they know best because they themselves can shape and improve their area. They know far better than us very often as local councillors what will work best and what won't work best. This reflects the administration's well-known policies of being inclusive, open and transparent. The local plan also helps clarify what I know is most controversial, certainly to residents in my ward, and it's been outlined by some of the opposition. Of course, it's the development of tall buildings. Without any space to grow and sprawl outwards, metropolitan centres have inevitably grown upwards
Thank you,
looking to
councillor.
house people as necessary. However, this local plan will provide more control and better defined local site allocations for the council, making it possible for us to hold developers' feet to the fire and making sure that potential developments in the borough are appropriate to the areas that they're in.
Thank you, councillor.
Overall, I would recommend this and would urge everyone to vote in favour of it.
Thank you. That's me giving my careless whisper there. Keeping up it. Thank you, councillor Rice. Right, to sum up then, we've got councillor Manro, to sum up this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A very interesting debate, some lack of understanding and knowledge, especially of part of the opposition, but that's always normal. I wish they'd actually read even the executive summary, but I don't think they have. Councillor Malcolm, this is not a toddler's pop-up book. It's a legally binding local plan, which a government inspector is going to go through in absolute detail. And there will be people, developers, other people there making their concerns known. And obviously, as Councillor Conti, you can make your concerns known to the government inspector. It goes through a legal process to make sure it's sound and it's appropriate for our borough. So you will have another chance. Now, affordable housing, I mean, housing has been a key aspect of the local plan. And Councillor Ball, your misunderstanding of what affordable housing is. We have actually achieved, we've done some work, gone back through all the applications. We're on an average of 39% for large schemes as being generally affordable. There's a breakdown in those, there's intermediate as well, but they are mainly affordable. Now, the reality is, Councillor Ball, if we said 50, I think Councillor Malcolm also said 50% or whatever, 50% of nothing is nothing. If you can't persuade developers to build in our borough generally affordable homes, you are not going to be able to have any affordable homes. And how would you answer to the 169 families living in hotel rooms currently? What are you going to say to them? Oh, we want 100% affordable. We can't get anything built, but sorry, that's our aim. We should aim high. We should aim for an ambition which is not affordable or viable. Wandsworth, which was a Tory council, allowed a 9% affordable housing contribution on one of their largest schemes. It's absolutely shameful. The Liberal councils have just pulled away from local plans and then don't even let anybody build anything. And so the homeless in their boroughs have nowhere to live. I think fundamentally a job, a sustainable job, the ability to afford a home is the basic underpinnings of our local plan. Yes, we have all the other issues around the seven towns, make sure development is spread throughout the borough. We charge developers a community infrastructure levy to make sure that they do pay for that infrastructure development plan. So what I would say today is we've heard some really good speeches around what is the reality of having a local plan which is suitable for our borough for the next 15 years. But the opposition talk about MOL. Yes, there was an issue around that, and we have listened as part of the Reg 18. That's because I would say that you spread misinformation about what the issues were, and we decided it was better for us to just be very clear about where we're de-designating and not where we are not. So therefore, you can't then use that to misrepresent again what the reality is of how we would treat our green spaces. We protect our green spaces, but the reality is there are bits of car parks, etc., everywhere where I'm sure even Councillor Ball would not call them green spaces. They have been used up, and we can use brownfield sites to build genuinely affordable homes in the borough. So what I would say is, please read the local plan before you make your comments to the government inspector, because you don't want to look foolish in front of him as well as here today. But what I would say is that's the reality of it. It's a legally binding document that we have to give evidence for. Yes, that's why we have so much evidence. because it's not for you, Councillor Ball or Malcolm, it's for the government inspector, because he would want to, for us to show it was a sound plan with all the evidence backing up what the policies are in the plan. So today, what I would say is I wish that you would support it, but if you don't want to, that's your choice. But I would say that this plan is an absolute, I mean, it's taken years, and I'm
Okay,
so pleased
Councillor,
with it. I
let's
think
not repeat
please
ourselves.
support it and vote for it. Thank you.
Right, councillors, the inspector could be a her as well, by the way. Councillors, the item has now been moved and seconded, and there's no one else I can see who's requesting to speak. Therefore, I'm now going to go to the vote. So those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Okay, all those against? Any abstentions? Okay, the recommendations are therefore carried. There was a typo in page 589. Just, no, I'm joking. Right, next item is a motion not for debate, and it's the motion not for debate to be moved by Councillor Brett.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I propose the motion not for debate that is in my name on the order papers to protect the post office services for our residents in Southall.
Thank you. Seconder?
I stand to second the motion to save Southall Post Office.
Okay, is that agreed? Okay, thank you very much. I've been asked to mention one thing I didn't mention before, and I don't wish to embarrass the councillor. Is she here? Councillor Ty, it was a belated happy birthday to you for yesterday. And just as a football reference, on this table is a Liverpool supporter next to a Luton Town supporter, and Luton Town are winning right now. So on that point, the meeting is now closed. Thank you.